How's it going? It's the man tomorrow here. Hold on a second. Yeah, how's it going? It's man tomorrow here. Coming through. Talking about important things here. And important things going forward. Also, let me take this jacket. Well, it's kind of cold in the line. Right. So here's my experience. Experience showed up at because we voted to church around the corner from where I live. So this is a probably upper to high class area. So obviously the voting experience is going to be a lot quicker because people who got money don't want to stand in line and they have enough voting machines in the actual place so that way you don't take forever to go in. Now, there's a lot more cars outside than I normally would see, especially during the midterm. This midterm election in this area was more packed than it was during the Obama first election. It was way more people out there, way more people inside. Because normally you walk inside and you go right up to a voter booth, especially because I always vote the day of the election, and I do not vote after 4 p.m. for any reason. Because I'm not trying to stand in no long ass line and trying to be out there and yada yada yada. I mean, early voting started a long time ago, but I wasn't able to get back over in that area. But it went pretty fast. It went pretty fast. It went pretty fast. If I had to judge, there was no black people. Well, I seen one black woman, and there was a couple of construction workers who was black. I would say the makeup of that polling place was 1% black, 5% Latino. I didn't see any Asians, even though I know there's a lot of Asians that live over in that area, and the rest were white. I would say the makeup of the actual crowd was mostly young dudes, definitely under 30. The whole crowd was definitely under 30 years old, definitely under 30. A lot of deucey looking dudes up in there. But yeah, that's what it was. So I get to the actual standards long line. I thought I was going to be in there forever, but they had voting machines lined up all over the gym in this church that you didn't see. So they took you back to this back room where all the voting machines were. And I was kind of wondering, well, with no voting machines out here, like, how's the line moving so fast? Yeah, the voting machines were in another area, but they have you kind of wrap around in this concentric circle to actually go vote. You walk in, you show your ID, they have you sign in to this electronic pad. They ask you what your name is, they verify your name and your address, and they give you this long strip of blank paper. Once you go through this line, you actually go up to the actual, when it's actually your turn to vote. You're going to stick this long strip of white paper into the voting machine. And that's when you start off. I think the very first option was the Senate candidate. Oh, sorry for that. What's going on, Redfield Finance, going on, 𝐷𝐄, Q Smith, LM. Yeah, so they started off with the Senate candidates first. Then they went down to ballot initiatives and bond measures. Now, these ballot initiatives are things that they collected signatures on for certain types of things they had on the ballot for people had to be a resident for a specific amount of time before they actually voted in the actual state. I disagree with that. I think if you are double voting, it's very easy to catch you double voting because you have to sign into a system and they have to verify you. And they just can't do that stuff on the spot like that. And they compare it against other states, believe it or not. They do compare it against other states. So if you voted in 3 or 4 states, you do get caught doing so. Not on election day, but after election day, they do that stuff. So, there's changes to the Constitution. A lot of it I agree with, a lot of it I didn't. This is just showing you what the process is. Yeah, that's what's up. Yeah, they gave us a choice too. So I did the electronic ballot thing. I didn't have any problem with the electronic system. I think I was kind of confused at the end when they like to check everything if you agree with everything. That's what I was kind of hung up on this time because the actual voting system was a little bit different than it was the last time. But I mostly vote for all bond measures because I don't think the current budget actually covers the things that need to be paid for within this area. And these bond initiatives, certain types of cents go here, certain type of cents go there. I always vote for every bond initiative for like expanding the library or trying to do other things within the state because we live in a good state, man, and you got to be able to want to be participate and be a part of the process. So, like I said, I didn't see no manosphere dudes out there. I didn't see no keep it 100s, no Bernard Rileys, no little big Nates. I seen nobody. No culture warriors. I mean, you seen them outside. They try to give you like a voter card that tells you who to vote for because the judges are not listed by party. So if you don't know these people or if you're not given a voter card by somebody outside, you're pretty much lost when it comes to most of the judges that are actually on the actual ballot because you don't know what party that they're affiliated with. And if you don't have any interactions with these people in the court system, like I do with some of them I have interactions with. Well, most of the judges, like I said, they ran unopposed. A lot of them ran unopposed. I think about 90% of them ran unopposed. This is why I keep telling people that if you want things to change in the judiciary and nobody knows what party these people are part of or what their actual platform is, the only way to run into these people is that with the court system, it's a pretty bad deal overall. So you're just looking at names, you don't know track records. Only thing you can do is hopefully you get a voter card outside the area before you actually go in. The literature that I was given before I was actually went in there, sorry about this, I should have put this at the first beginning. It was for some, but this is a pretty liberal area, even though it's highly, quote unquote, upper class, you would think conservative, but no, this is a pretty liberal ass area. I was given a voter card by this Latino dude for like this Latino judge, and I think I voted for him because, yeah, 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 Keith Smith. Look, you know what? It only took me like about 15 minutes. I think it took me about 15 minutes total as well. Even though the line had like hundreds of people in it, man, bro, they was getting them people up out of there pretty quick. Yeah, but all the bond measures I voted for, and then I turned my sheet of paper in, and then I rolled out. Now, one thing I do not agree with, because I'm from Mississippi and I voted in other states other than Colorado, and I think that if you're going more than outside of your school district to go vote, I think that's a very bad idea. I think that every high school, every public school should be a polling location. Even though we vote at a church, and I'm not religious, but you know, that's just hey, they had the facility to set up, so you got to go with the people who's ready. I met the pastor of this church a whole bunch of times. He seemed to be a pretty nice guy. He let me speak at his church a couple of times. because I still go to church from now. And again, if I do have the time, if I'm in town, it's the easiest way to meet most of the business leaders is to go to this church thing. It's the only reason why I do go. But it's an important process. Like, here's the thing. It's easy to be a culture warrior for any type of issue, but they don't allow culture warriors on the left. They allow them on the right because they know you're diluting your own power and that you're not paying attention to policies on the right. They know that you're not there for that because you're not asking for anything when they're going over there and just being right. They just kind of like finger in your face. We're just on the right, and there ain't nothing you can do about it, which is fine, I guess. But at some point, you got to understand that if you don't show up to vote in a democracy, you don't get counted. That's how that works. In the NBA Finals, if one team doesn't show up, the game is forfeited for the other side. Yeah, it was fine too. Most of young people, like I didn't see that many older people there. Mostly young people, under 30. That's what I saw. So you have to understand that once this election is over, you're not going to hear much from the culture warrior crowd about elections until probably a year and a half from now, where they want to pretend like they were actually involved in the process, but they never were. They can't tell you about their voter registration experience. They couldn't tell you about the process at all. They couldn't tell you about anything. They couldn't tell you about what's on the ballot. Here's wasn't what wasn't on the ballot when I went there. Black women wasn't on the ballot when I went there. Submission and trying to find Keisha, none of that shit was on the ballot. Nothing about black women was on the ballot at all. Because nobody cares about that stuff at all. Yes, that's always on the ballot for our stuff too. It's always on the ballot. I'll always vote for it. I'll always vote for every bond measure when it comes to expanding education. And not really anything for public schools, mind you, but they're always something for community colleges, like a lot of mid colleges said. And I'm always for voting to expand the library. Because believe it or not, I go rent a whole bunch of movies and I get them. So that way I don't have to rent movies. I can just pay my taxes and go rent movies for free. It's a library. And the same thing with books. Because don't nobody really know that they have an even movie library there. And since I'm through there every so often, I just put it in the mail and mail them back. Upon leaving, because where you go in and where you leave is two different areas. When you leave, that's where all the people, some of them who are on the ballot, they're out there, but a lot of them aren't. But this is where you make the most connections at for the party, is when you're leaving. There's attorneys out there. There's people from the party platform there. There's all types of people there. We're trying to get people to sign up for stuff or get involved with the process. That's where the power players are at. They're on the other side. They're not allowed to be up front, but they are when you get through voting because they want to get you more involved with the process itself. Yeah, but older people always vote all the time, man. They vote all the time, every time. Because they know these austerity measures be on the actual ballot, and they may talk all that conservative nonsense, but all that stuff that protects older people comes from one side. It is not the conservative side. They don't care about any of their people, let alone older people. So you are correct about that. So culture warriors are still going culture warriors. You can't allow going forward these TSI Johnsons, these Ice Cube contract with Black America. You can't hear this bullshit over the platinum anymore. You can't hear anything else about any of this other nonsense because if you wanted to be actually present in the actual political process, you would have showed up. If you can create an intro for your actual show, you can create a political ad. It's not that hard. But if you want to be part of a process and you don't want to be invested in it, then you're doing yourself a huge disservice. So before the year is out, I am going to come up with my own plan for men going forward, and not just black men, because you don't deserve to have any type of um, directed approach for direct marketing because you don't show up to shit. So, except for foolishness. Yeah, like BMT, like I don't understand people who don't want to vote. Like if you don't want to vote and don't want to be part of a specific system, this isn't a parliamentary system. You're not assigned power regardless of whether you vote or not. We have a democracy. If your ass don't show up to vote, you don't get shit. And you can't leverage other people's past voting um, participation as your voter participation because there are different things that are going on in different areas. And you can't just keep coming to say, oh, well, we've been voting for 50 years. Like, bro, you fucking 20. What are you talking about? You just got here. Yep. Because all those people, most of them ran unopposed. Like I said earlier, 90% of them people ran unopposed. And I know them judges are pieces of garbage, most of them. Especially when you see them outside of their environment. You see them at the golf course or you see them at police functions and all that kind of stuff. Man, bro, most of them judges should have been out of there a while ago. But if the people who are mostly affected by these judges within their area don't vote, that's a tacit endorsement for them judges to keep doing what the hell they're doing. No problem there. No problem there. Back to the power brokers outside. Pretty much the only thing you have to do is just talk to these people. And as long as they know that your ass is participating, they will talk to you. But you got to be part of the process. Well, here's the thing about people who talk about immigration. I want to see a highly skilled individual who's complaining about immigration. People who complain about immigration are dumb motherfuckers for the most part. They don't participate in any type of system. They want to stay at the bottom. They want to be in these minimum wage fucking jobs. They don't want to organize for anything. And then they get outclassed by people who are simply doing all the things that they're not willing to do. I don't worry about people who are worried about immigration. I don't worry about that. I just consider these people non-participants in the conversation. Even though I did see a heavy Latino presence at the polls, you didn't see a heavy black male presence. You just didn't. So other people know how to show up. That's what I've always said, Wacky Word. But it's an emotional issue. Like immigration is an emotional issue. Yes, there was a time when, I was Oracle certified. And yeah, there was a time when those people did come in and get those jobs. They did it to everybody within the Denver metro area. You know what I did? I moved on to something else that they couldn't take. They could take those jobs, but they could not take the project manager job. So I had to adjust and move to somewhere else where it wasn't a crowded field. Because doing one specific job is way easier than managing those people who do the specific job. So I just became a PM, turned around and hired all the people that they couldn't hire on other projects. So we just rolled the short-term project market. Again, immigrants are not that big of a problem other than people who don't participate in the process. If you want to fight for those jobs, working at Purdue Foods, Tyson Chicken, or any other chicken plant in the South, be my guest. Go work for $5 an hour. The same people who complain about immigrants, whenever the Teamsters or the any other unions hiring, none of these dudes show up to those actual jobs, even though it really doesn't take that much to actually be a part of this process. My cousin, who's like a 3-time felon, not sure why he's out of prison, he in his own city went up to the union when they were hiring, and now he's a union truck driver. A union truck driver. Never had a job like that. Never really wanted to participate in the system at all. Once he seen the power of working with organized people that actually wanted to make sure that he was paid properly, that dude always showed up to the process. They always did. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, dude, it's too many talentless clowns out here who just want to ride off of this shine of Trump, who want to ride off of this shine off of the conservative movement when they're never talking policy. They're never talking about ballot initiatives and measures. Because I'm gonna tell you like this: the conservative movement ballot measures are about restricting freedom, restricting access, cutting funding to this type of program that works well. Most of the Democratic stuff is about expanding funding for XYZ operations, expanding funding for community college. That's the way it's always has been. But you would know that if you were part of the process, because your manosphere conservatism isn't on the ballot. Your manosphere conservatism is not on the ballot at all. This is a loud minority of stagnant people who would pay anybody for them to represent their ignorance on the big screen. Well, Bob, that's never going to happen because that's why you have the political advertising, because people are too stupid to keep up with simplistic issues throughout the year. So they want somebody to come pander to them in some 30-minute soundbite that's full of lies. Yeah, both sides do lie about these ballot measures, by the way, especially when they're on TV. Yeah, it's a problem. But they used to have something called poll taxes, Bob, where they actually did have all these challenges for people to actually vote, and it actually went mostly against minority people. Did it. Yep, that stuff happens too, Dick. It happens a lot. Actually, I had to fire like several guys because there used to be a plant in Dry Ridge, Kentucky, that works with Ford and GM. They do brakes. This dude decided that he was just gonna be snatching brakes off the trucks and offering the paperwork because the paperwork for like Ford and GM, that's a lot of paperwork that you have to go through. But they know where you are. So his shipments just kept coming up empty, and then they started putting these cameras in these trailers and started having these people do power only, and they started catching people just like that. Yep, you should do that too. This is what I don't like, Paul. Paul, you make a very good point. If you don't want to wait in line, your vote can come to your house. You can fill out the ballot, sign the ballot, and just put it back in the mail. And you still voted like everybody else. But see, a lot of people want the actual outcome of participation, but they don't want to participate themselves. They don't want to get their hands dirty. And that's nobody else's fault but the person who don't participate. I don't worry about people who complain about reparations and all this other high-minded shit. Like, it's almost like saying you don't participate in the election, but you want world peace. So you really think that they're going to actually not do any defense spending? You must be out of your mind if you think that's going to happen. Yes, there's no excuse for people not to vote through the mail. No excuse. Now they're becoming a lot more rules associated with it. Like, yes, but that's the problem. But the gynocracy, yeah, man, that the gynocracy ain't really stopping you from voting. Yeah, there was no women coming back to the table that was on the ballot. That was not on the ballot. That is also correct, BMT. That is also correct. Like none of this stuff is really that hard to figure out, folks. When these people start talking about politics, because there's no such thing as I'm in the middle or I'm a libertarian. We have a two-party system. Even if you're in the middle, you still have to caucus with one party or another. Yeah, there are some Republicans that I do agree with, but they're on the local level. The National Republican Party, I can't even deal with on no level. But the actual local level Republicans, the ones who are actually in these communities that don't go up to like these house races, those are people you can actually talk to. Guess what happens when you don't vote? You don't have a voice. Because I'm telling you, when you walk up to your city council and you go in there to speak, they're going to look your ass up. They're going to find out who you are. They even going to find out if you live in a district or not. Like a lot of these dudes are intolerant of the actual political system itself, but they want all the benefits from it. That's what it is. Like, like they think that a chance at benefiting without work is better than not participating. I disagree. I want my hand on the wheel. I want to see what's up here, so that way I can be a part of this actual process itself. And you're correct, Wacky World. People on the internet just enjoy grifting. They have no intent on solving issues that they're grifting about because their agenda is pure entertainment. You are correct, sir. Yes, or like Tom Hartman said, libertarians are dudes who want to smoke dope and sleep with prostitutes. Yeah, Me Too wasn't on the ballot. None of this relationship bullshit was on the ballot. People were talking about real issues. I keep telling you, man, a loud minority without participation means nothing. It really doesn't. None of this gender war shit was even on the ballot. Period. None of it was. All the stuff we talk about in this space, none of it was on the ballot. None of it was on the ballot. None of it was on the ballot. Yeah, and if I was these politicians, I'll go right upside your head and cut all the funding for the shit that you actually need every time. Especially if you prove that you ain't gonna show up. Why wouldn't they go upside your head every time? Why wouldn't they? Yeah, happens all the time. Happens all the time. These people want invested and involved people. And guess what else wasn't on the ballot? Submission to women. That shit wasn't on the ballot either. None of that nonsense was on the ballot either. Submission to women or women coming back to the table, none of that bullshit was on the ballot either. Lowering or lessening child support, your actual consequences for dealing with this liberal ass woman, also wasn't on the ballot either. Abortion wasn't on the ballot either. Yes, when it was on the ballot in conservative ass Kansas, they voted that shit down. No, they wanted people to have access to reproductive health care. We're talking about Kansas. Yes. Like, what's wrong with Diaspora L? Like, these people actually think progress is actually showing up to this run me my check America thing with Grifter Tariq Nasheed and Grifter Killer Mike. They think that's progress, asking for things that are pie in the sky with no actual ability to go after it for real. That's what they think progress is, because they want hands off progress. They want hands off progress. Dude, I'm telling you, man, the only tables that was at this polling place was tables getting you to sign in and verifying your information. There was no other table that was there. None. None of this reproductive um hypermasculinity bullshit, and none of it was on the table. None of it. No minister issues or topics was on the table. So all this time we waste here complaining about women, none of that bullshit was on the ballot at all. Not even remotely on the ballot. Productivity was on the ballot. Productivity is on every ballot. Whether you want to invest in the actual future productivity, that stuff's always on the ballot. Or do you want to cut spending for one function or another? That's always on the ballot. Yep, game wasn't on the ballot either. Game was not on the ballot. No, sir, it was not. Sharing whack bitches content within the manosphere, also not on the ballot. Red pill content, not on the ballot. Hey, what's going on, man? None of this stuff was on the ballot. The only thing that was on the ballot is, do you want to participate in investing in the future or not? You know what else wasn't on the ballot? Passport Bros wasn't on the ballot. SYSBM wasn't on the ballot. Wasn't on the ballot at all. Entertainment wasn't on the ballot at all. All this stuff is outside of the mainstream, man. None of this stuff was on the ballot. Of course not. Shout out to ARC. I haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's doing all right. Nah, man, bro, child support wasn't on the ballot at all. It was never on the ballot. Never. None of this shit was on the ballot. Hey, but I tell you this, a lot of women showed up to vote. I can tell you that much. The women was out there in force. Not really black, and not really Latino, and not really Asian, but the white women were in line with them abortion pins on and shit. Yeah, they showed up. I can tell you that if there's a bigger group than anybody else, it was younger dudes and younger women, and their issue was abortion, that reproductive care shit. Not really, taking that stuff away from people. Yes, that was out there in full force. I've never seen that many young people vote before. Never seen that many young people out like that. And I'm real proud of them dudes, man, because I know most of their parents don't vote either, don't participate in the process. They just want to accept the consequences and complain about it. Again, this stuff is a choice. It's a choice to actually show up and vote. It's a choice. It's a choice that you want your voice to be heard. I want to see all these so-called in the middle libertarian dudes who live in these highly liberal ass areas. I want to know how you voted. I want to know what you voted on. Or you can pull this killer Mike shit by saying that, well, you know what? I'm gonna talk all this stuff about politics, but my actual vote is a private thing. Man, get out of here with that, bro. You can't coordinate anything with anyone with somebody who doesn't want to let you know what they're doing. The reason why they don't let you know what they're actually doing, for the most part, is so that way you can't coordinate with them. They want to consistently be able to be outside of the bounds of reason while holding you to a specific standard. But like I said, it's too easy to do among people who are not actually participating in the process. It's really easy. It is so easy to grift on these people who don't know how things work. And these things are simple. These things haven't changed in 200 some years. But you still have individuals who still don't want to participate. You can't help those people. And after this election is over, they're going to go right back to the red pill content because you don't have access to actual usable women, which they're exploiting, which is your fault. It's nobody else's fault. It's yours by yourself. I guarantee you there's something on that ballot that you needed to have voted for or needed to be involved in. Yep. 𝐬𝐢𝐿, not on the ballot. Ice Cube, not on the ballot. Tia Johnson and the blackmail 14-point agenda based on bullshit, not on the fucking ballot. Contract with Black America, not on the ballot. Because that's not what you organized for. The Platinum Plan, not on the ballot. As they should. Go on, Nick Taylor. As they should. I think black men should take credit for that. And they also should take credit with that, taking your platform away from you because of that actual issue. But you guys have got to figure out, man, they've already replacing you with other people because you kept thinking that you was going to hold the system hostage for this long ass period of time. It's not how that works, man. You're not going to be able to hold the system hostage for that long, not forever. It is a big deal for a woman to run for a governorship in a southern state, and the men of the culture where she at don't show up. It's a problem. It's a real problem. It's a real problem. So you got to understand that you got to have something invested and involved in order for you to get something out of it. Yep, the first in U.S. history. But I would say that those women on the Democratic side, they wasn't helping either. The way some of these women were talking about these dudes and trying to get these dudes invested in the political process, that also was not helpful. This no voting, no bucking BS. Dude, don't talk to people like that, man. That's not how you get anybody out to do anything. These random ass groups who are associated with entertainment or the actual dating and relationship conversation trying to come in and make a splash on some nonsense, like, bro, I don't need your help, man. I'm gonna do a live stream on those two individuals, and it's just a master class in showing you how how men don't know how to act, and they want to hear BS and nonsense. They want to hear BS and nonsense, but they don't want to play the game how the game is set before them. There's already an established level of rules there, and individuals still don't want to play the game properly. You still got dumb motherfuckers still asking about reparations and haven't voted for anybody. But It's so easy to take advantage of people who are not actually participating in the process itself. Yes, it would, especially for any political office in Iowa. I like Iowa though. I like, well, Davenport area, Des Moines. Outside of that, I wouldn't live in Iowa. But yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, bro, listen. If the conservatives are saying nothing and the women are being ultimately disrespectful, let's talk about that. Like, I was watching Black Ram stream, the last one, and it had this woman on talking about men showing up to actually vote. And I'm like, man, this lady is so over the top disrespectful to men that she wants to vote on the Democratic side. What's going on, Ike? She was so over the top disrespectful, it made me not want to vote for the Democratic Party. But what's at stake is more important than a woman's opinion. What's at stake in these states is more than a woman's opinion. It's more than pandering. It's more than all that shit. But you should bypass those people with large platforms and still read the shit yourself, though. It doesn't matter how much respect a woman does or does not have for you. There are things at stake on that ballot that does affect you. And you don't need somebody's encouragement for you to actually participate in the democratic process yourself. No, apparently they don't. So there are problems. And no matter what the problems are, that doesn't mean that you don't participate in the process itself. But that's where we are. Nobody has to be nice to you. Nobody has to beg to you to show up to a democratic process. That's your responsibility to read these things. Your responsibility to know what's going on with these things. Yeah, people like, oh, well, you know what? I want to be pandered to. You know who gets pandered to? Idiots get pandered to because idiots don't want substance. Idiots want to feel special when the conversation is actually centered around them. Idiots don't even require substance. Idiots just want to be talked to like they're the most important person in the room. Idiots. Yes. Oh, well, we met and we took a picture. Okay, where's the substance? What did you get out of it? Nothing. Nothing. That's why I don't bother even with these people who don't even worry about the substance of what's at stake. Well, you know, it's just a woman that talk with me with any level of respect. I'm just not gonna show up. Good. They're expecting you not to show up. And when you don't show up, you don't have a voice. And when you don't have a voice, then you don't matter. And when you don't matter, you're complaining about immigration. Because most of their voice is actually made up of, yes, clean water was on the ballot. It was on the ballot. Sure was. And there is a very specific party who actually think that letting corporations write the rules for the Environmental Protection Agency is okay. That's a very specific party for them. I don't think about women when I go into the voting booth, bro. It doesn't even matter to me. Like, dude, I don't even care about any of that stuff when I walk in there. I walk in there, I read the ballot initiative, I go back to the top, I read the ballot initiative again. Okay, does this make sense? Because most ballot initiatives and most bond actual measures have to be written in, I think it's sixth grade education. Yes, it has to be understood and written in sixth grade education in order for it to be on the ballot. It's not hard. What district are you a part of? Who are you represented by? What was actually on the ballot? What are the actual changes to the Constitution that's going to take place in January? Who are you going to be represented by? These dudes think that, man, because they think black men are so dumb. So you got two different groups of people here who don't give a shit about men in general and black men in specific. You got the women, the actual women who don't need men, who don't give a shit about men, how they talk to them, and X, Y, Z. And then you have the manosphere level men, who's trying to get you to focus on sexual politics rather than real politics. Sexual politics wasn't on the ballot outside of replacing abortion with some state-run thing. Sexual politics wasn't really on the ballot like that. Not as much as people describe it. Dude, none of that stuff was on the ballot like that. It just wasn't. Not really that difficult either. So what you guys have got to get tomorrow, the coast is going to be clear. The airways is going to be clear of political talk. They're going to brag on the fact that Stacey Abrams lost. I don't know why the fuck you would brag on something like that. That means that you're with the Republican side. There is no middle ground anymore. It's either you're on the left or you're on the right. And if you're in the middle, what did you vote for? If you live in a big ass liberal city, then you're on the left. Okay? You like government services and shit, you're on the left. There's nothing to be ashamed of being on the left. Nothing at all. Even though most of my ideas are conservative, I don't have a place within the actual Republican Party itself. Because they don't believe in equal protection under the law or even the actual democratic systems that we have. And that's how come I don't vote with them. Local Republicans, yeah, I can rock with a lot of the stuff that they're actually talking about. But the National Party, I can't ride with because I ain't got no place there. And I have no business being around people who don't respect me. Period. What's wrong, Doug? So we're going to do this. Hold on a second. So on Sunday, I'm going to talk about masculine symbolism versus masculine substance. I'm on StreamYard, so I can't click over and actually get the link to the live stream and actually put it down there. But that's a video that you should like and that you should show up to. Because masculine symbolism have taken over the space of actual YouTube. People want to be these middle of the road contrarians without choosing the side, without no proof of participation, without no proof of knowing what these actual issues even mean or what they're even talking about here. So we have to move these people to the side that they're on. Hey, if you're a conservative, you're a Republican, cool. Just go over there and fight for something that we can strategize around. So that way we can get this stuff under control. Because if you're a conservative and you're a secret conservative over there for some secretive ass reason, and we can't really work together, then you're actually working against the best interests of all men, period. You can't have the women out organizing the men and voting together. Men should be as strong as a group as the actual women as well. But you can't really do this with all these people who's in the so-called middle of everything. Because, you know, It's the ideal phase. So we don't have time to be doing election coverage like we did a couple years ago. You know, we did election coverage a couple years ago, and they just went and supported the culture warriors because they wanted to inject sexual politics into everything. Because sexual politics is the actual poison that are running through the veins of these dudes, and this is what they're trying to drag you back to. They try to drag you back to complaining about this actual woman, which has nothing to do with your actual progress at all. So with that said, I've been here for about 50 minutes. I want to thank you guys for coming through. I want to thank you guys who voted, who participated in the political process. I'm not trying to monopolize who you vote for. I'm trying to monopolize the fact that you do actually participate. Because if I only wanted you to vote, as long as you voted one way, then I'm no better than the people who don't want you to vote at all. The problem is, I want you to read what is on the ballot and know how this actual process is formulated, because it's different for every single state. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you to participate. This shit is done in your name, whether you show up for it or whether you don't. All this shit we waste our time on in this space talking about, none of that shit was on the ballot. Absolutely none of it. There needs to be a new separation of productive people versus these unproductive people. Because the unproductive people make it very hard for everyone else to function. They want to keep the conversation centered toward around BS and all this nonsense that don't make any sense. Ever notice the people who don't talk about substance have the largest platforms, but the people who do talk about substance have really a hard time getting their actual shit out there? That's because most of these dudes' heads are tuned into bullshit 24 hours a day. You really can't operate or deal with people who have that type of framework going on. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. I want to thank you guys for still being a part of my platform. But there's going to be some changes coming down in 2023. Once I get this site up, once I get this book out at the end of the beginning of next year, I'm going to have a site where I'm going to be writing some content and actually doing something with this actual thing that is not just sitting here talking about this shit on YouTube. The process of doing what? The process of doing what? Yes, yes. That's the next step. Is actually getting involved. This is why you start the day after the election, so that way everybody's on the same page. The best way to start this actual movement is to start the day after the election is over. Yes, there will be. Yes, there will be. There will be a place where we'll be able to discuss things offline. You ain't got to give up your real name and all that kind of dumbass shit. None of that. We can just sit here and we can discuss things like actual men. Any trolling, any fucking foolishness, we kick your ass out the group and you don't get to come back in. Because I don't want to be around non-productive people. I don't want to be around people who want to save the community. I don't want to be around any of that shit. Because I'm going to be phasing out my Patreon to do that. I'm going to be phasing out my Patreon to do exactly that. Because I bought access to like a lot of self-improvement books in a library format, and I could be able to put it behind a paywall just like that. I could be able to do a lot of stuff with a website that I couldn't do with a YouTube channel. So that way we could have actual courses on politics and go over these ballot initiatives and tell you what they mean on a 50-state basis. Because we deeply need something that's targeted like that to men. Because that's the next stage of this, is doing that. Going to do interviews on radio, showing up on, being like nationally syndicated columnists talking about these issues when they come out. talking to these actual women on both sides who think they could just disrespect the shit out of us and we just show up and not do shit. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So with that said, I want to thank you guys for coming through on the Man Tomorrow. Thank you guys for participating in this political process. A lot of people have fought and died for you to participate in this political process, not only from the United States military, from the civil rights movement, from a lot of voting rights movement that's happened within this country. Your voice have got to be heard. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you to actually participate in the process. Because once you start coming toward the substance of peace, you don't need a whole bunch of bullshit once you concentrate on the substance. You don't need a whole bunch of bullshit to keep you going. So I want to thank you guys for coming through. You guys have a rest excellent day. Peace.